Hi everyone, I'm Jayne at Rockin' Worms. Welcome to my channel. This is the first video I've made in a couple of weeks because my cameraman has been out fishing and I was left here to take care of the homestead, which is fine, except it was a really busy time and it actually made me make a mistake. I lost track of one of my bins and have to now deal with the situation. So the bin that I'm talking about is the worm bag in a 5-gallon bucket bin. So this is what it is right now. And the first thing obviously is it's no longer in the bag, in the bucket. And the reason being is it dried down quite a bit. Now, the last time you've seen this bin, let me just start opening it up here so you can see what we're talking about, was 3 weeks ago. And yeah, I had it on a shelf that was over here. Cameraman can pan to the shelf. This is the real world mess I live in as far as my worms go. And I had the bucket next to the other bucket. And quite frankly, I just forgot it had worms in it. And with the bag, it does get, a lot of air circulation and it dried down. So when I realized this about 4 days ago, the worms had not been looked in on for 2.5 weeks. So quite a long time. So like I said, it had dried down. So what I wanted to do is obviously address the situation right away. So I took the contents of the bag and put it into a work bin, which if you've seen my other video check-ins regarding this system, I do like to work in the bin because there's more surface area to deal with. So I immediately put it in the bin and moistened it. Okay, it was not dried down 100%, but it was pretty dry. I got a little piece of plastic here. Let me pick that out. Okay, so you can see that there's still a lot of cocoons in here. I don't know, honestly, who is still viable and who is not, because unlike worms that would be in a dry situation and could move to a center location where there is perhaps pockets of moisture, the cocoons are kind of stuck where they are. So Mother Nature does give them some protection with the little gel-like substance that they're made out of, that they'll hold some moisture. But I honestly don't know how much they've dried down. So I'm just going to have to, roll with it and see what happens. So like I said, I did put some moisture in here to start rehydrating. And I wanted to look, okay, this is what I'm hoping to see, is that there are worms in here, okay? So I am getting some hatching. So at least some of the cocoons have survived. And, getting some baby worms. Now, what I'm hoping happened with the dry down is that the bin just kind of got stalled, okay? That the cocoons didn't have the moisture level that they like in order to, I'm going to just keep kind of moving through here and seeing what worms we got. So the cocoons didn't have the moisture level that they need or they like in order to signal the baby worms, the wisps, to come out and hatch. So what I'm hoping is that things just kind of stopped and took a pause, and the cocoons were waiting for a more favorable condition. This is a bigger worm. I do put in juvenile worms. I used to put in adults, but I've moved to just putting in juvenile worms into my cocoon bins to kind of babysit. Here's a little tiny one. Can you see it? Little tiny wisp. This one's only, like maybe a day day or two old. That's cool. Yeah, so the bigger worms kind of, move through the substrate, keep it aerated, signal to the cocoons that, conditions are good for survival and to hatch. So what, again, I think may have happened is, the bigger worms went to the center of the bag. Remember, at the time, this was all in the worm bag, in the bucket, that the older worms, if you will, went to the center section where it was moist, and the cocoons there may have hatched, but any cocoons that were on the periphery of the bag, were dry and didn't get that signal and just kind of, again, sat tight. So what I'm checking for now is, again, worms, and if my rehydration of the worm bedding is holding, which it does seem to be. Oh gosh, I do have, I'm actually pretty happy with this, folks. I do have a lot of, look at these little baby worms. So I'm really hopeful that my supposition is true, that once I added moisture back into the system, the cocoons picked up where they had left off and are now hatching as they should. So that's great news for me. It doesn't look like I've lost this whole batch of cocoons. I wasn't super worried that was what the situation was going to be, but you never know, right? And then you just have to deal with the situation. So this is looking really good. The moisture is, again, very nice, firm enough to hold together, still breaks apart pretty easy. Okay. Okay, so I got lucky. That's bottom line, is I got lucky with this being a cocoon bin and the cocoons being able to survive adverse conditions for a couple of weeks and just pick up where they stopped. All right, so what am I going to do next? I am going to put these guys back into the bag in the bucket, because there's nothing wrong with the system. The problem was with me. I got busy, and the worm bag was off to the side because I didn't have a central location to keep it with my other bins, and I just lost track of it, and it happens. So if that kind of thing happens to you, just, when you realize that you've overlooked a bin, just jump right into it, see what the situation is, and try and fix it. Now, if you haven't seen it before, this is just one of those Tyvek bags. This happens to be a shopping bag from a local grocery store. The important part is that it is both air and water permeable. So it provides a very good environment for worms and also, hatching cocoons. And I just use these binder clips to hold the bag onto the lip of the bucket. And because I'm using binder clips, I can make the bucket either deeper or more shallow as I need to. So it's really handy. Actually, hold on a second. I want to grab a bin over here on the side. I know you can't see me, but trust me, that's what I'm doing. And I like to put the bucket into a work bin. So when I start putting the material back into the bag, anything that falls out to the side is, caught by the bin, and it's easy to clean up. That last handful had a ton of cocoons, and I want to see if I can get another handful. Can you see the baby worms and still a whole bunch of cocoons? These cocoons, this is 3 breeder bins worth of cocoons. So I had 3 breeder bins in the middle of April that, you know, came up for their 21-day reset. And what I did is I sifted out what castings I could at the time, which actually was quite a bit. And the cocoons were concentrated in the layer of material that went through a 1/18 inch screen, but did not go through the 1/12 inch screen. The material, which is castings, that went through the 1/12 screen had very little, I won't say zero because it's never zero, but it had very few cocoons in it and was mainly castings and, you know, super finely processed leftover material. Okay, so that was the stuff that went through the 1/12 screen, and that went into my castings bucket. The stuff that did not even go through the 1/8 screen went back into a bin to continue to be worked on. Look at this handful right here. Look at all those cocoons with the baby worms around them. Fantastic. The stuff that didn't go through the 1/8 screen went back into a bin to continue to be processed. This material here is what was trapped between the 1/8 and the 1/12 screen, which was, again, most of the cocoons and some of the more clumpy material, because, you know, the material has moisture in it. I don't dry it down to sand because I don't want to, you know, kill my worms and my cocoons, even though I kind of sort of did that by accident, right, a couple days ago. But the material that is damp, not all of it's going to go through the screen, even if it is castings. So, all right. I'm going to put that over here. I'm going to pick this up, kind of dump it in. I know this isn't a great shot, but you get the idea. I'm going to use my handy dandy paintbrush here, which, again, you've heard me talk about the paintbrush. Here's some little wisps here on the bottom of the bucket, or bottom of the bin, excuse me. And I'm just going to brush those down. So you've heard me talk about the paintbrush before. I got it for $1 on sale at a local hardware store type of, concern. And I use this paintbrush every time I work with my worms, because not only does it, help with situations like this, but as you know, as you work with your worms, this material gets everywhere. And it's always, no matter how careful you are, it ends up on the table. It ends up being flung everywhere. And what I can do is, when it's on the table or, someplace easy, I can just take the brush back and just, brush the material back into my work bin, and then, put it back where it needs to go, wherever that is. All right. Okay. Just one more minute. Switch hands here. It's easier to get this opposite corner. And you got to spend a little time cleaning your bins when you're using a work bin, because these little, see right here, these little worms just like to cling to the plastic. And we want to make sure, we get everybody that we can. Here's even a tinier one right here. Just see, look how tiny that is. That's just a day old. Now I could probably pick it up with my finger. really gently. Yep, got him. So here he is. I just did the lightest sweep over his little body, and he stuck to my glove, and then I was able to brush him off gently against the surface of the bin. All right, I'm almost done. Here we go. Usually I would cut away at this point and just, you know, finish this up off camera, but you know what? I wanted just to take the extra couple minutes to show you that it does take a little bit of time. We've had this discussion before, that just because it might take me a minute or two to do something on camera doesn't mean that it really takes a minute or two to do it in real life. And, you know, I think it's important to show how much time things really do take. Okay, so this is all good to go. I'm just going to put on some of the old newspaper. I'm going to put on a new newspaper cover and just spritz it up a little bit because I do want this material to stay moist. Put it down. I have my little lid. And now, I'm going to put the clips down. And now, to try to help me not lose sight of this bin ever again, I changed my structure here a little bit, and I'm going to put the bucket up here. So now it's at least with everybody else and not over to the side all by itself where it would be easy to forget, because obviously it was. All right, so that's our check-in. The point being, hey, sometimes you lose sight of where your bins are, or you just get busy and you can't get to them, and the bins dry out or they get alternatively too wet. And you just, you know, when you realize the situation, you just jump in and you start fixing the situation and bringing it back. And a lot of times it works. Worms are very resilient and they will survive if you give them the slightest little chance to make it. All right. So thank you very much for watching the video. Please consider liking and subscribing. It really does help me establish my channel and get my content out to other people who might find this information valuable, informational, and you know, that's what we want to do, is share information. So I hope you have a good night. I am yours in the dirt, Jayne.